Evaluate the expression for x equals 7. So let's take a look at our first problem here. We have 12 minus x. So we're being asked to evaluate. When we see these directions to evaluate, there's two things we're going to do. We're going to substitute, will be the first thing. We're going to put in the value for the variable that we've been given. So the first step, the substitute step, is going to look like this. We're going to write down the constant, the 12. We're going to write down the operation sign, minus. And now instead of writing in the x, we're going to write in the 7. Okay, just like that. Now, it's not a bad idea to put the variable replacement in parentheses. And you might say, well, why would I write something like 12 minus 7? Well, we're going to see where these parentheses come in handy when we take a look at the next problem. Basically, what we're doing here is we're isolating that variable, and we're going to slip that variable out, and in its place, we're going to put in its value. So once we've done our substitute step, then we're going to do our calculation step, or what I'm going to call our simplify step. Okay. So once we substitute, then we're going to simplify. We're going to make this simpler. We're going to say, well, what is 12 minus 7? Well, we know that 12 minus 7 is 5. So there we've evaluated this expression for x equals 7. Let's take a look at this next one, 5x. So this is where we have to be thinking about, well, what's the operation that's going on here? Because I don't see a plus sign or a minus sign or anything like that. Because the 5 and the x are right next to each other, there's no other operation sign that's showing there, we understand that this is multiplying. And that's something that we call juxtaposition. Okay? Juxtaposition is when we have two things that are right next to each other and there's nothing else in between them. So that's telling us that we're going to multiply. So this is where those parentheses are going to come in handy. When we've got the 5, notice that if we just write down 7 in the place of the x, if we just write it like that, it looks like 57. We don't see that there's supposed to be multiplication going on. But if we use our parentheses around the x, and we slip that x out, and we slip the 7 in, notice that now we can see we're still going to be multiplying here. 5 times 7 is 35. Then in our last problem, where we're supposed to be evaluating, when we do our substituting step, notice that the x is showing up twice. In both of those instances, the x is going to equal 7. It's going to equal 7 both times. So for this first x, we'll isolate it out, and the second x will isolate out. 7 is going to be for the first x, and remember that plus sign, so we want to be sure that we bring down the plus. And the second x also is 7. The value hasn't changed. So there's our substitute step, and now we go ahead and do the simplifying. We do the calculation here to give us a final answer of 14. Be sure not to skip the substitute step. A lot of times, especially on simple problems like this, people are tempted to just do the math in their head and just write down the final answer. But if we're going to be evaluating, this substitute step is an essential part of what we're going to be doing. So each one of these problems needs to have this substitution step shown, and then you can go ahead and do the math that's required.